Hello, my name is Jez and welcome to this video about arrays and understanding indexing. So what is indexing when we come to working with arrays in our programming? Well, indexing, as the name suggests, is an index. So imagine it like a book. An index in a book is the list of chapters or subjects and the corresponding page number as to where to find that particular page within the whole book. Now imagine that whole book to be our array, with every page in our book being a different item in our list. The index tells you where to go, what position in the array we need to go to in order to locate our particular page. Now, indexing in Python is a little different, or could be a little different, to indexing when you come to use it in pseudocode, for example. Let me explain. I'll just share my screen. So here we have our shopping list from the previous video. Our shopping list has 3 items in it: apples, pears, and bananas. They're all separated with a comma, so Python knows that there are definitely 3 items in the list. Now, indexing, you would think indexing would be as simple as apples is position 1, pears is position 2, and bananas is position 3, because that's the first item, that's the second, and that's the third item in the list. Unfortunately, that's not the case. It might be the case when working with pseudocode, but with Python, indexing always starts with 0. Okay, it will always start with 0. In pseudocode, it might start with 0, it might start with 1. But should you get a pseudocode question in an exam, for example, that involves working with indexing and arrays, they'll always let you know what value indexing starts at. In Python, though, it always starts at 0, and that's the only thing to remember. So apples is at position 0, pears is at position 1, and bananas is at position 2. Okay, and I'm going to mention it again, indexing starts at 0. Okay, so always remember that when working with arrays or lists in Python, the indexing always starts at 0. There, I think I've said it enough times. In our previous video, we looked at how we can print out this array, and I'm just going to do that now as a little recap. If I run it now, there we go. Apples, pears, and bananas. But what happens if I just wanted to print out pears, or I just wanted to print out the very first item within an array? This is where indexing comes in. This is how we print out the whole list. If I wanted to print out pears, I would, just after the variable that I'm specifying that I want to print, I'd use my square brackets, and in these square brackets, I would put the index value of the name of the item that I would like to extract and print. As we know, pears has an index value of 1. So that's what I'm going to put in my square brackets. Now when I print, I go run. There we go. It just brings back pears. If I wanted to print out bananas, what index value would bananas be? If you said 2, you'd be correct. So let's try number 2. So from my shopping list variable, which is above, print out whatever item is that index value of 2. So apples is 0, pears is 1, bananas is 2. So we should get bananas. And we do indeed. So we know it's working. What would happen Now, this is really important. You might think, why are you doing this? But this is really important to show you, okay? So if I was to go index 3, what would it bring back? Well, this is interesting. Let's see what it would bring back. So if we go to run, it would bring back an error, okay? It would bring back an error because apples is index 0, pears is index 1, bananas is index 2, but there's no index 3 that we're looking for. So it's looking for an item in a list that doesn't exist. And this is one of your most common error messages that you'll get when working with indexing, the out of range error. And as you can see, a Python error looks big, red and scary, but always just look at the last line, because that's the most useful piece of information when looking at an error and trying to work out what it means. In this case, we've got list index is out of range. So if something is ever out of range, it means you're looking for an index value, that an item that doesn't exist in an array. Okay. We also covered two-dimensional arrays, arrays within arrays. Okay, still with me on this one? We had lists of things, a list made up of mini lists, didn't we? And we can use indexing to extract pieces of data from a two-dimensional array as well. So let's call up, I'm just going to remove that so it doesn't error anymore. So let's call up our another list example from our previous video. So here we have our variable called another list, and we have our overall list, but within that overall list, we have these sublists or subarrays or mini lists, lists inside lists. So our first list is to do with numbers, or it's got integers in it, and our second array or list is to do with colors, as we can see there. So we have a list of strings, don't we? And we can use indexing to, maybe we want to extract that number 5, or maybe we want to extract the color blue out of it, okay? Say if we want to extract the first value from every mini list inside our master list. We would use our print command like so, and we would specify what variable we would like to use, in this case, another list. So when I run it, it prints off the whole list, as you can see, but we only want the first values in every mini list listed above. So we're going to use our square brackets, okay? But because it's a two-dimensional array, we are going to require 2 values to be entered. And let me explain. The first value that goes in the first set of square brackets is the index value of the mini list. So we have 2 lists, this one and this one. And those lists will have their own index value. So this is the first list. So that has an index value of 0. This is the second list, which has an index value of 1. So in here, we specify the index value of the mini list we want to target. In this case, we're going to target the first list, this one here. So this one has an index value of 0. Once we're inside that mini list, we then need to specify the index value of the item within that list. So we wanted to go for the first item, didn't we? So once we're in that list, we need to target this item here. And as it's the first one, an index always starts at 0 with Python. We're going to put in another 0. So if I was to print that, we get the value of 1 because it targets this list and then it targets this item. Okay, what would I need to write in order to extract the first value of the second list. How do I get the value of red out of our two-dimensional array? Well, we would once again use print. We would again specify that we would we want to use the another list variable. Okay, it requires two values, two index values, doesn't it? The first one is the index value of the actual mini list we want to use. In this case, one with all the strings of colors in. So that will have an index value of 1 because it's the second list in the overall array, isn't it? And once we're in this list, we're going to target the first item, which is 0. So if you specified we would need an index value of 1 followed by an index value of 0, you'd be correct. And I'll prove it by running it. So we got the 1 from the previous example, and we've got the value of red from the other. So that's how we're able to extract the first values out of a two-dimensional array. So what else can you do with indexing? Okay, I'm going to move back to my one-dimensional array because it's slightly easier. What we can do, we know that we can print shopping list. We know we can extract things out by specifying the index value. I'm going to go with bananas, so an index value of 2. If I was to run that, there we go, got bananas, like so. We can also specify a range. So maybe I just want the first 2 values to be included in the output. Not all, or not a singular item, but maybe the first 2 items. We do that using the following. We want to grab a range of items within a list. So we're going from index 0, colon 2. So when I run this, I get apples and pears. So we're basically specifying bring values back from this value and that value, and anything in between, just output it on screen. One thing to remember when we're using ranges, or slicing as it's technically called, is that it will include the starting index. So when we specify the starting index of our range, it will include that value in the output. It won't include the value, the item of the finishing index. So notice I've specified here index 2, which is bananas. So it will stop when it gets to bananas. It won't include bananas. And we can see that when we output here using apples. We got apples and we got pears, and we don't have bananas. So one thing to remember when trying to extract a range of values from a list is that it will include the item of the starting index value, but it won't include the item of the finishing index value, as we can see from the example on screen now. And that's where I wanted to get to with this introduction into indexing. There's far more you can do, but if you are looking to challenge yourself, have a go at writing a little loop that will extract the first item of a list and then move on to the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one, and so on and so forth. So it's just a little exercise if you wanted to challenge yourself and understand indexing in a bit more depth. In the next video in this series, I'm going to be looking at a simple Python program that uses lists and also incorporates a bit of randomization as well. Thank you very much.